Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. How are you all? We're all doing very, very well. Now, just about a week ago, me and Mrs. Kilt-Man ventured forth into North Wales, which is just over there where I'm sitting. It's not far away at all. And we went to a place called Ruthin Castle, and we stayed there. Ruthin Castle used to have fantastic medieval banquets there, and we've been to them, and they are awesome. However, because they got a bit riotous, didn't they, back in the day, they don't do those anymore. But you can stay in the castle. Terrific four-poster beds, fabulous scenery, fabulous location, fabulous food. The food is great. And the location, the grounds, and you can go, you haven't got to stay there, you can go and visit the place. Ruthin, North Wales. You can go and park your car, or your carriage, or your war wagon, or whatever means of transport. There is a helipad there as well. I think that's what the big H stood for on the deck anyway. But you can go and park there and just walk around the grounds, go to the bars, have some food there, or just walk around the village. But you haven't got to be a resident to park your car there or do whatever you want in the grounds, you know, within reason, obviously. And what we found about the grounds was it was a cross between Port Miriam where they filmed The Prisoner with Patrick McGoohan. And Port Miriam, by the way, is only about 20 miles further down the road. It's not far away at all. And it's gorgeous, well worth a visit as well. As is all of Wales. But a cross between Port Miriam and Rivendell, because it's all old stone archways, bridges, caves, gardens, fabulous tableaus and manicured lawns, but then you've got old encrusted stone walls overgrown with foliage, lots of trees, lots of vantage points with signs saying low wall, deep drop. See, like, you look over this wall, whoa, and there's nothing to stop you from going right over there. Word of warning though, it is governed by peacocks. Yeah, peacocks, which are lovely. They strut their stuff. And then suddenly you go, oh, aren't you lovely, trying to take a close-up picture, and then it goes, and all the fantail of feathers come out. And then you realise, okay, back away now, back away from the peacock. But it's a lovely place. Now, we didn't just walk around there all the time. No, we went everywhere else, did a lot of trekking around. And in the village itself of Ruthin, you have Ruthin Church, St. Peter's Church. It's a very old church. And it's set in beautiful grounds, and the weather was great when we were there. And the distant mountains of Snowdonia, you could see them in the background, and but old tombstones, lots of trees. There was a big old organ in there as well. It was a lovely, lovely church. But what it reminded me of massively, so much that I put it on social media, and then people got back in touch with me about it, is it reminded me of the very same sort of church, an old school church in George Grau's 1972 notorious seminal zombie gut-spilling, throat-ripping masterpiece, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. A Spanish-Italian co-production. I have reviewed it on the channel quite extensively, and even beyond that I've talked about it quite a bit. And it reminded me so much of the pivotal sequence in that movie where our hapless heroes, hippie George and the girl he's just met, Edna, George and Edna, but they're both played by Latinos and Hispanics and Italian actors. It's a Spanish-Italian co-production set in what's meant to be the Lake District, starting off in Manchester, hence the title, and then into the Lake District. But they didn't film it there. They filmed some opening shots in Manchester City, and then they went down to the Peak District, which is a different area altogether. And although the title in the UK is Manchester Morgue, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, it's actually set at Southgate Hospital. So it's Southgate Morgue. But Gianetto De Rossi's fantastic gore effects are what put this movie, well, one of the reasons why this movie got on the DPP ban list and became a video nasty. You have disembowelings and all sorts. It's horrendously gory. And in one very notorious scene, the hospital telephonist, who's a bit of a blabbermouth, yakety yak, the zombies storm in there and put their hand down her blouse and rip her left breast off with lots of stretchy skin, pure latex. Gianetto De Rossi also did the effects for little Lucio Fulci for Zombie Flesh Eaters. I'm pointing over here because the soundtrack for Zombie Flesh Eaters is playing right now from here. And but I started thinking about The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, and I was there in the video library called Exclusively Beta. Why? Because it just was exclusively Betamax cassettes. When the police, the local gendarmerie, stormed in and removed a lot of titles which were deemed obscene, and it was one of them. And it's here now. Well, not the one that they took, but there is the original Betamax copy of The Living Dead, as it was called in the UK on home video. Its cinema release in '74 was actually The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. If you check this film out, it's notorious as well because it's got so many different titles. Breakfast at the Manchester Morgue, Don't Open the Window, Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, and millions more titles. But the film is magnificent. Anyway, so I put these photos of this church on, and people were getting in touch and saying like, oh my God, have you reviewed that movie? I said, yeah, I have, yeah. So I put the link on, yeah, I've reviewed it here. And people were messaging me as well and saying, oh God, I love this movie. Oh, can you talk about it again? I said, well, okay, well, yeah, I probably will at some point. But of course, it put it in my mind. So I haven't actually watched the film since we come back from Ruthin, but I have been playing its soundtrack, not this soundtrack. And there's some dialogue from Zombie Flesh Eaters cropping up. But this is Fabio Frizzi's fantastic score, very electronic, very avant-garde for Fulci's Flesh Eaters. And so I started playing the soundtrack to The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue by what's his name? Giuliano Sorgini. And he was an Italian composer, but his style, especially for this movie, and I'm going to play it because this is the point of the video, is very prog rock, very experimental. What they did, there were musical instruments involved, but when they watched the film back, director George Grau, they said, George Grau has actually said, like, look, once we filmed it, and it's mainly filmed on location, but with some inside studio bits which were filmed in Cinecittà in Rome, and they said, well, I had a visual image of this movie mapped out, so straight away, when it comes to editing the film, it was fine visually, but the sound design, the sound mix, and this was one of the first horror films to get a 4-track stereo sound mix, and the reason's quite evident because they worked it out. I want to play eerie stuff. I want to try to express the sound of dead lungs breathing. You know, how would they work? What they sound like? The sound, and also no Simon and Garfunkel, but the sound of silence. So I want to build up to like a moment of complete silence. How are we going to do all this? So he and composer Sorgini worked out using voices, you know, a lot of the time, and droning, electronica, oscillations. The dead are brought back to life because of a Ministry of Agriculture scientific, you know, oh, let's try this out, see if this works. It's an ultrasound device which they put out in the fields of farms, and it's to kill pests, insects. So it's an ultrasound pesticide basically. But George, our hapless hippie hero, who was persecuted mercilessly by the ultra right-wing and fascist Irish copper, Sergeant McCormick, played by Arthur Kennedy, who's an absolute bigoted bastard. He's horrendously bad. Another reason why the film was seized upon by the police, especially the Manchester Metropolitan Police under the Chief Constable James Anderton, who had a direct line to God. He said it. He hated homosexuals. He is hard line on any kind of crime, which is a good thing. But his conflict with morals was just despicable. And he was in power for quite some time. He quelled many riots. The guy had a lot of great ideas, which he culled from operating tactics in Northern Ireland to quell street trouble and riots and civil unrest, and he brought them into Manchester. But he went on an absolute moralistic rampage, a total Bible-thumping, God-fearing. He was a man of God. To quote him again, he said God moves in mysterious ways, and some of those ways might be quite drastic and savage, but I am here to put those ways into action. Oh my God! So he would persecute minorities, and he was a tyrant, a pure fascist tyrant. And because when his film came out on home video and he was in power in Manchester and very outspoken, he was getting lots of backlash from the left wing and pretty much the middle. Were pretty much against him as well because of his tactics and his really over the top sermonizing, which is not his job, of course. So and this film came out and it's very staunchly anti-police. Now, it's not that George Grau, the director of Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, had anything against the British Bobby on the beat. He didn't know any of them. He didn't know about police tactics in this country. But what he did know about was Franco's hardline fascist regime in Spain. So he took that on board, the jackbooted bloody, police on the streets from his own country and that regime, and just brought it in as an element of this movie. Right? And it works brilliantly because you really do hate McCormick. You really, really do hate this bastard. And but of course the police got wind of this. Not only was it sensationally gory at a time when video nasties, The Evil Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, God, so many, Driller Killer, Last House on the Left, and all this sort of stuff were getting banned or at least taken off the shelves. Only 77 got officially banned. And anyway, so they leapt on this, not only because it was gory, but because it was very staunchly anti-police. Now, I know this for a fact, and I know it's still held in some disregard by authority figures for this very reason. A year ago, maybe just less than a year ago, I was talking to a couple of people who were ex-policemen, and I've known them for quite some time, and we did discuss the whole video nasty furore, and regular viewers know I was brought up in a house with guns and firearms and weapons. My dad was a military historian, and I inherited so many items and obsessions from him. But my dad was a rifle and pistol champion. I grew up, I had a Magnum 357 revolver, Smith & Wesson. I had the M16 cut down version. I had a 9mm Beretta, all on license, all totally legal. And then several gun outrages took place in the UK and we had to surrender our weapons and all that. But the police would come round to check your house, a couple of times a year, to make sure that your weapons were secured somewhere and your ammunition was secured somewhere else. And they'd come around, but they knew my dad. My dad knew all the police. My dad was very well known for all the right reasons. And but I amassed pretty much all at this stage the entire band list, most of which were crap. They were crap. Island of Death is bloody awful. It's shite. Driller Killer's shite. Ilsa, she bitch, she wolf of the SS. Love Camp 7. They're crap SS experiment camp. A lot of these are absolute dross, but some quality there. And of course, I had The Evil Dead, which ironically was actually cut in the UK anyway. But I had The Evil Dead there in a great, the Palace video box. Wow, it was there. And the coppers come in this time to check on, the firearms and the ammunition. And I suddenly realised, because the police are coming down. Wow, and I'd be sitting there, and we had rifles on the walls and all sorts, and Zulu shields and Zulu assegais, that's the spears, and weaponry from Napoleonic Wars, the Crimea, the Boer War, Zulu War, everything was there. First and Second World Wars, everything. And the police loved me, Dad. And so they came in and they'd be looking around all this stuff like that. They'd check the ammunition, certificates, everything's fine. And then one guy went, he looked down at the my amassed collection of videos downstairs in the main living room. He went, The Evil Dead there? And I went, like that, 'cause it's banned. And he went, I've seen that. It's great, isn't it? And I went, yeah, it is. So I was talking to these coppers about all this. And I said, oh, of course, there was the, you might not have heard of it, the Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. And he went, oh, yeah, I know about that one. And the other guy went, yeah, I know about that one. We had to lift that off shelves. And I thought, were these two guys the ones that came in when I was dead young in exclusively beta, who took it off the shelves amongst other titles? And I actually tried to stop them as well and tried to argue the artistic merits of these movies. It was like, get your fucking nose out. You know, keep your neb out. You know. And by the way, how old are you? You should be watching these movies. Well, actually, they haven't got an age certificate on them because it's pre BBFC certification on videos. So I could have got around it that way, but I thought it best to keep quiet. And said, yeah, I was privy to these titles getting taken off the shelves, but this one in particular. And they both said, yeah, that one is hated and is still hated. The police, the Metropolitan Police, Manchester Police, they all know about this particular title because of its staunch anti-authoritarian and its finger waggling in the face of fascist police state, And I said, God, even now, you still remember it? Oh yeah. We were told that was one of the main titles. You could forget your Evil Deads and your Driller Killers and the Bogeyman and all that sort of stuff. You can forget all of them. That was the one we had to go after. And that would be James Anderton, that really saw similarities between himself, almost caricatured to grotesque levels, with McCormick, Arthur Kennedy's character, in The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. So that's a bit of background to that. But so in the last week or so, I've been, since I got back from Ruthin, I've been playing the soundtrack to Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, and I noticed a similarity, a prog rocky similarity in one of its themes to something that another prog rock group did for another zombie movie only a few years later. Now, Giuliano Sorgini did the soundtrack for Living Dead at Manchester Morgue using voices and drums, and there's a bit of a jazzy flavour to it, but it's also very unorthodox and avant-garde and experimental in its use of breathing sounds and voices and laughter. And what he did, when I said they got the visuals all edited down, and then he spent, which took about 2 weeks to do, it took about 2 months to do the actual sound mix, trying to get it right. And they were auditioning people who could use their voices, and in the end, no one sounded good enough. So in the end, Sorgini, the composer, said to George Grau, the director, well, if they can't do it, why didn't you ever go? So you've actually got on the soundtrack, you've got George Grau's voice growling, breathing, snarling, and they did find a female voice actress who could supply laughter and giggles and breathy sort of effects. But they stripped down all the instruments, so you've got drums and percussions in there, and you've got guitars, and there is a very sort of prog rock flavour to some of its cues. And I was listening to it the other day, and I thought, this doesn't half sound familiar to me. And I go, what is it from? I'm going to move off Flesh Eaters, I'm going to play the appropriate musical cues. Cheers, y'all. Because a certain other prog rock and European-based band were making a name for themselves with the likes of Dario Argento for Deep Red, Profondo Rosso, Suspiria, and I've talked about these a hell of a lot. And then they did Dawn of the Dead for Dario Argento, who's a producer and distributor throughout Europe for it, and George Romero. It is, of course, Goblin, or The Goblins, but under the... They're still going, but it's Claudio Simonetti, who is the genius wunderkind of Goblin. They've interchanged members of the band for the last few decades. They came to life, I think 1975, the year after Living Dead at Manchester Morgue came out, which is 74, and they adopted jazzy, funk, experimental stuff, sort of pre-punk elements as well. And well, you know what their sound is like, and they would use voices and vocals and crazy guitars and weird instrumentation. But now I've done this a lot before. I've done lots of sort of soundtrack and score videos where I've gone, doesn't this sound just like this? And it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun. I'm not saying anyone has ripped anybody else off. Although on previous videos I think I probably have said that because it's too bloody obvious. But you know what this is? This is the lovely Oretta Gay from Flesh Eaters, who gets her throat ripped out by the Conquistador. Where am I? Zombie. He rips her throat out, and she's so gorgeous. She's the one that goes skinny dipping and meets the shark, and then an undersea zombie. As you do. Right, let's go on to it. Okay, well that's not Goblin, but it's from Dawn of the Dead. Whoa! Husky dog just returned from a mammoth walk. You'll hear water slurping and then her chowing down on the treats I left her in her bowl. Which I think today, what did I leave there? Some salmon fillets in tomato sauce, and I think a bit of ham as well. Lucky girl, isn't she? That's the gong from Herb Chappelle, which of course is the muzak in the mall in Dawn of the Dead. But, right, I want to play for you a little bit of Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. And here is the opening title theme. It's called John Dalton Street. This is where you meet George, played by Ray Lovelock, who's got an antique shop in Manchester. And he's going to go out to the Lake District, to Windermere in the Lake District, to go and help his friends sort out their summer cottage, their summer home there, but on his Norton motorbike. And he drives through the streets of Manchester, and you see people in face masks as well. So it's quite prescient, really. And there's also an ecological side to it, because they're messing with science to change the ecology by suppressing the insect population. So science is causing issues with the ecology with serious ramifications. COVID, anybody? Wildfires, anybody? Climate change? So you've got people in Manchester with masks on, and he's riding out on his bike, but you see this woman strips off and just streaks across the road fully nude, but no one pays any attention. And the point Grau was making was that everyone in the city, the industrialised areas, is zombified anyway. They don't even pay attention to what's happening in front of them. They're just like zombies. So even before Romero really did that sort of satire about commercialism and how we are all as a society zombified with our instant fix of shops and oh, I need this, I need that, I need this. But a zombie just, I need that, as in flesh right now. So even before Romero took his Night of the Living Dead ethos, which was just, people come back from the dead, it was his interpretation of Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, of course, and a classic film as it is. But Dawn of the Dead's massively moved from that, and Living Dead at Manchester Morgue takes the idea of Night of the Living Dead, but it's in full colour, and it adds the gore, which they couldn't show. Oh, they don't show much in Night of the Living Dead, but it also has the bleak conclusion as well, that this thing will go on, and you also kill off your hero as well. But I've talked about this before. I'm going to put the link to that video review in the comments down below. So, but yeah, off he's going, and at a garage, Edna, played by Christina Galbo, who's lovely, reverses her Mini Cooper over his bike. So he goes fucking ape shit, like, well, I've got to get to Windermere. Well, I've got to go and meet my sister because she's having problems, having nerves breakdown. She's also a drug addict as well. And well, we're going to go too far into the story. So they end up together, and they're bickering all the time, and you don't like either of them. But come the end of the film, you will really grow. You will have grown to have really empathised with these two, and they form a bond which is very touching because of all the things that happen, the incidents, and how George works out what's causing the dead to come back. And it's that bloody Ministry of Agriculture ultrasound machine which doesn't just act on the sort of primitive nervous systems of insects. No, side effect, it'll reanimate the recently dead and give them an insatiable lust for human flesh. And you can't kill them by shooting them in the head. Nope, because they'll just keep on coming. You've got to burn these. Anyway, look. This is what I'm coming to, right? This is the track, the opening track called John Dalton Street. You will immediately hear the same repetitive motif, right? This is Dawn of the Dead, but okay. And that's the bit. It just goes on. And you've got all this. You've got drums, you've got bongos, you've got lots of percussion there. It's catchy, isn't it? It is a great theme. And throughout the rest of the score as well. Take out all the breathiness and the dead rasping lungs and all that, and the weird ethereal ghostly cackles and voices and vocalizations. This theme plays in a variety of ways. But it's that. I'll take you back again to start. I tried to work out how many notes it is. I think it's 4. No, something like that. But we're going to play this a fair bit, folks. Now, that is Giuliano Sorgini's John Dalton Street from The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue from '74. Now we're going to flip on to 1978's Dawn of the Dead and the score by Goblin. There's various versions of Dawn of the Dead. We know the UK cut version. You've got the unrated American version. Then you've got the producer's cut, Dario Argento's cut, and there's another cut as well. Interestingly, Argento's cut has more of Goblin's music in it, and also in some different places too. It's differently spotted in that movie, his version of the movie. But anyway, so we're going to look at the track Zombie from Dawn of the Dead. But first of all, let's just get on this again. That's the crucial element. Here's Dawn of the Dead. So, Dawn of the Dead's also got a lot of library tracks in there, one of which I'll play for you because I love it as well, which is from Prisoner Cell Block H, and another show called Mask of Death. It's an excuse to talk about these movies and to play the music. But I want you to listen in a minute. And again, I think this style as well. You've got guitars and you've got percussion and you've got jangly sort of also like organ keys, notes, chords being played. Oh, we're doing it! And you've got the voices in the background, voices from the Manchester Morgue. Claudio Simonetti would do a lot of vocalization, especially in Suspiria. He'd be doing all the witch and all the sort of bizarre, vocal intonations. But listen, percussion, ongoing. I know you're not convinced. And you've got all this going on. Let's go back to John Dalton Street. It's the same. It's the same, folks. And you've got all like weird percussion and timpani. Now, Giuliano Sorgini was a composer for films, but he was exploring progressive rock. Goblin were purely progressive rock. Goblin came out after this. Who's to say that Claudio Simonetti and the rest of the boys hadn't watched this and gone, that sounds great. And how addictive is that? I forgot to tune myself then. It's very hard to hum along. If you mistime it and you've got the music playing and you try to, like this on camera, try to hum along to it. If you've mistimed it, you're never going to get it right. And you know what? Okay, this has gone into its evolution now. But let's do it again. Okay, and we'll go back into zombie. Come on now. I'm not wrong. I know I'm not. Because I've spent the last few days going, what the bloody hell does that sound like? And again, you've got this crazy sort of like almost tribal percussion going on. With bongos and all sorts of different stuff. Skins being hit and battered and brushed and all that. And that's what Sorgini was doing as well. The exact same sort of methodology, and Goblin have done the same thing. Okay, they go off into this sort of stuff as well. But the use of voices. So let's go on to some of the voices then. Is it on this? I mean, this is great, this. I mean, their voices. So Sorgini ended up using a lot of electronica and wind effects. Now you've heard the wind effects there, and this is Dawn of the Dead. This is Goblin. And Sorgini uses those effects back in '74. This is a fabulous track. This. All the dead are there in the tenement block, and like you got Roger and Peter, the two super SWAT guys going in there, and they're just, and they've thrown all the tenement people have thrown their relatives, the recently dead, in there, and of course they've all revived because they don't want to kill them again because they're their loved ones. And of course this would also be used in the motorcycle gang's attack on the mall at the end. But interestingly as well, see, I'm going to have to go on to the actual score for the Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, because I added a bit of a playlist there, but now I'm involved in this. There's a lot more similarities. Isn't that? This is great. This. Now we're back on the Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. gore-wise, it's infamous mainly for Constable Craig, but Craigie they call him, his demise in the cemetery. I didn't find it that funny at all. Didn't that also find its way into Evil Dead? You know, cackling witch-like, hyena-like laugh. Listen to this. It's creepy beyond belief, isn't it? But Craig has been following our two hapless heroes, the hippie George and Edna. Could you get any more British 70s names? Apparently not. George and Edna. And the dubbing in this movie is actually pretty good, because they've used a lot of regional accents to do the voices, and Craig's been pursuing them at McCormick's orders. You know, like, he can't stand every kind of these youth of today. They're just degenerates. Every kind of filth, pornography, drugs, sex. McCormick hates them with a vengeance, and he's blaming them for all the deaths that are taking place. But it quite fucking clearly isn't them, you know. But of course, they're investigating what's going on, and Edna gets attacked by Guthrie the Loony, who's one of the most terrifying zombies in cinema. And he's the recently drowned body of a vagrant, a homeless guy, who comes shambling out the river. Gorgeous, picturesque Peak District. This is a variation on that main theme again. We've got that organ in the background, the church organ, which Goblin employ an organ for Dawn of the Dead as well. So similarities are there all the way. But it's so cool, isn't it? And they've stopped off at this church, and Guthrie the Loon comes out of the water, and well, George has gone off goes onto the Lewis's farm, which is where he discovers this agricultural machine and the two guys using it. And because he's also a bit of an eco warrior, he's like, but you haven't tested this. You shouldn't be using it. You've got no idea. This is technology and science. You don't even know what you're dealing with. And of course, he's dead right, because it's reanimating corpses as well. But while he's gone, Guthrie the Loony attacks Edna, and it's just the close-ups of his eyes, and he's not only dishevelled, but he's a big, sort of powerful-looking vagrant, homeless guy, all unkempt, and he's horrible dead eyes, red rings. He's got a noose around his neck as well. So like, oh, but Guthrie the Loon was he was found drowned in the river. What was a fucking noose around his neck for? It just adds a really grisly extra image to him. And he will attack Edna in a scene very similar to Barbara being attacked in the cemetery at the start of Night of the Living Dead. And like the zombies in Night of the Living Dead, who use tools, pick up, like that zombie that attacks Barbara, he smashes the car window in with a rock, doesn't he? Bill Hinckley, what his name is? Hixley, something like that. And but these guys, Guthrie will then reanimate some other corpses. This is where the film kind of it messes up its own idea. This is Living Dead at Manchester Morgue again, because it is this machine, this oscillating ultrasound machine, which revives the dead. That's the side effect it has. And even newborn babies at Southgate Hospital are biting. Got no fucking teeth. Biting, but they're ripping at nurses as well. So you've got a nurse whose eyes been ripped open, and you see the infant with bloody fingers and blood down its mouth and all that. So that they work out that obviously it's affecting primitive nervous system. So that the science behind it is like a baby's got a primitive nervous system, and the dead, their nervous system is just only slightly just ended, but can be revived by this with primitive emotions. But where was I going with that? I don't know where I was going with that now. But oh yeah, they can use tools. So when Craig discovers our heroes at the cemetery, and they're trying to make the connections and all this, like, and they find that Guthrie, they're going out in the crypt, and Guthrie's the Loon, his casket's empty, and then they find the body of the caretaker's in there as well, all mangled. A scene very similar to Barbara in Night of the Living Dead, when she enters the farmhouse and she goes up the stairs, and there's that mangled body on the staircase, on the landing. You got that eyeball staring at it. It's very similar to that. But they get locked in there, and it's Guthrie, the loony's got in there as well. And it's a fucking incredibly tense sequence. He shoves off the casket lids of 2 other coffins in there, and because he's got bloody fingers from having killed the cemetery caretaker, he dabs blood on the closed eyelids of these zombies, and they awaken and just rise up. And the 3 of them will go after R2, who get up a ladder, and they get like a post hole digger, and they smash their way through. Very reminiscent of Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery, which is an identical sort of sequence in that. I've reviewed that as well. I've done all of the best of Fulci movies as well. And they managed to get out and get into a freshly dug grave. So they're there. And they're like, oh shit. And then Constable Craig will help them out. And like, they see these bastards coming out, these 3 zombies. And they get into the, like I think the shed, the attached shed to the church, which the caretaker obviously lives in, and they barricade the door. But the zombies pick up gravestones and start using them as battering rams, and they're acting as a team. So if you come to this movie after watching all the later zombie movies where they're just shambling, brain dead, gut munchers, they're only scary en masse when they've caught you, but otherwise you can outrun them and just take the piss out of them. But these guys, they act as a unit, and they clearly do still have thoughts and ideas and can plan. But this is the infamous scene, as well as the breast being ripped off, which is truly horrific as well. But Craig tries to make a run for it. He's in an unmarked police car, but I've got the radio in the car, and I can tell him, you were right the whole time. It's not you guys. I can tell the sergeant, and we'll get help here. And off he goes. But he doesn't get very far. Oh, hang on. I need to drink some of this before I discuss this scene. Or church organ. And in that church in Ruthin, St. Peter's, there was a gorgeous Phantom of the Opera style, huge organ there, church organ. Took photos of it. They're all on social media. I took all these pictures. They look great as well. It's a dead ringer for this church. But Craigy's trying to run for his car to get help, and they picked up this tombstone, and they throw this tombstone at him, and it hits him, and it cleaves open the back of his leg, and he's like, on the deck. I'm like, oh no, he can't get away. And the 3 of them, which it's an old woman and some other scrotish looking fella, and Guthrie, and they pounce on him, and straight up, he's screaming, and they put their hands in his guts and pull all this, everything's tested, all the bits and bobs are coming out. And you've got that very famous scene. Again, everyone watches it and thinks, it's been cut. Because what you see is, there's an empty, you see the female zombie reaching down for his eye, and in a very clumsy edit, suddenly she's eating, obviously a hard-boiled egg. And then you see that the eye's gone, and then she reaches down for the other eye. So you think, it's cut. Because they're showing everything else, they must have shown this. It doesn't exist in any print of the film. George Grau said, and Gino Rossi, who did the effects, no, we didn't film the eyeball coming out. It's just a clumsy edit. But it's a horrible sequence. And of course, when they come in and re-attack the place, George manages to immolate them with like a lamp, and like a burning flame lamp. The oil goes up, and that's how you kill them. You've got to burn them alive, and or dead. Burn them dead, and that's how they kill them. And they make a getaway. But of course, McCormick arrives because they've actually heard Craig on the radio, because he did get to his radio before they start getting this about, they're killing me. Oh god. So McCormick thinks it's the hippies. The hippies have done it. And they've already tried to almost beat a confession out of George as well at the Owl Inn, which is the local tavern where he's staying, and they've always tried to get him to just sign a confession. It'll be better on you, but I haven't done anything. Oh God, they're such bastards. They really are. And but of course they find the dismembered and disemboweled body of Craig, and then you find all the burnt corpses inside, and like, oh, those bastards. Oh, get him. Shoot to kill. Shoot on sight. Yeah, that's what he orders. Fucking hell. He's a right bastard, is McCormick. Every kind of filth, you hippies. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, you know? And prog rock as well. But there's other killings. There's severed hands on the sides of police Land Rovers. There's corpses everywhere. And you got George trying to tell the police, look, it wasn't me, it was the corpses! The corpses! Just don't fucking listen to him. Well, why would you? There's also a crazy sort of offshoot. Edna's sister, who's having such problems with her drug addiction and also issues with her husband. They look like the most bizarre couple. He's gone off to do some midnight photography. Well, she gets attacked by Guthrie. After Guthrie's attacked Edna, he then goes onto their house in the middle of nowhere and attacks her. She manages to lock herself in the tool shed or wherever she is. And then when she thinks he's gone, she makes a break for it. Oh, she breaks through the window, I think it is. And she legs it to where her husband's doing his midnight photography of certain flowers and things, as you do. And but in the meantime, as she gets there, Guthrie gets there, and Guthrie attacks her fella and kills him, claws his face open and throttles him. But his camera's been going off. So George finds the camera and takes it to a local chemist. This is not your phones, your cell phones and all that kind of stuff. Or your video recorders, or what? It's just an old school camera, the big flash, boof, like that. But this is a curious thing, because it would have captured Guthrie killing him, and George wants to use this as because they're blaming the three of them, Edna's sister and the two of them. They reckon Edna's sister killed her own husband, because all McCormick needs is like, oh, she's a drug addict. That's enough evidence for me. And the other two are covering up for her. And then they're committing other murders, Manson-style murders. What the hell? But George gets the camera. The chemist develops the film. But Guthrie's not on the imagery at all. So it's like, what? Is he a vampire? Is he a ghost? Why wouldn't his image be on there? It kind of, they screw around. Grau's script, although I do love this movie, it does make a few sort of tactical narrative errors. Like, it's the ultrasound machine, so how come Guthrie can revive by using blood, on the eyelids? How can he revive two other recent corpses? Shouldn't the sound just do it itself? How are babies in the nursery actually biting people when they've got no fucking teeth, So it's great, but it's also kind of chaotic at the same time. But visually, the location work is exemplary. The acting is really good. Arthur Kennedy is a bastard. You want to kill him. And of course, the famous conclusion when the zombies do tear the arse out of Southgate Hospital. Not the Manchester Morgue, but Southgate Hospital. And they start chowing down on doctors. And one doctor, actually, there's one corpse. He's here. I'll show you him. That guy there, in his little nappy. He's been obviously autopsied. There he is. And he goes for Dr. Duffield, I think his name is. And Duffield manages to pick a fire axe off the wall, as you do. Reanimator style. And puts the axe into his chest. Takes a huge chunk of chest away. But this guy just takes the... See, they're quite strong as well. Not just like shambling, weak things. Takes the axe off him and fucking lobs it right into his head. And he goes, ugh, fucking blood's everywhere. Edna's sister will attack her with a pair of scissors, and she'll end up being zombified. George tries to save the day, but starts setting fire to the place as well, and then realises I can't save her. And she, in a pitiful, sort of lovely, poignant moment, Edna will be like, just no, even zombified. No, I've got a bed. So she'll basically commit already dead suicide. And as George tries to get away from it, McCormick comes in, you bastard, and shoots him in the back. It's like, So like Ben in Night of the Living Dead, the really quite meteoric sort of racial whammy that Romero did. Your hero of the piece was a black man, and this was 1968. So, you know, that was the race riots and a lot of counterculture stuff, and it was highly controversial. But our hero, Dwayne Jones, played, not Dwayne Johnson, played Ben, the hero who at the end, only he has survived in Night of the Living Dead. I know I'm jumping from film to film here, aren't I? But there are lots of connections to all these, and he ironically locked himself in the cellar when he was trying to tell Harry and his missus, don't bolt yourselves down there, there's no way out of it. He's had to go down there in the end to survive the onslaught. Comes up the next day. After the Night of the Living Dead, he comes up the next day, which you could say was dawn. And the local redneck posse are there. And because he probably hasn't slept and he's still in a state of shock, Ben just shambles through the farmhouse and gets seen. There's one. And your hero, who's not a zombie, has been shot in the head. And then you see him getting hooked and thrown onto the funeral pyre. They're burning all the bodies of the zombies and all that. And you're like, oh my god, how nihilistic is that? Well, your hero gets killed here, but in a very sort of neat Tales from the Crypt, Amicus style, sort of poetic ending. He will rise from the grave. He's just been killed, but of course, these guys in the field, they've turned it up to full frequency now, so it's got an even greater reach. That's how the film ends, basically. Oh, it's great success, isn't it? Your fields are great. There's no pests whatsoever. Turn it right the way up. So all zombies for hundreds of miles around are going to be fucking coming up like. But McCormick actually says to the corpse of George, "I wish the dead could come back to life, you bastard, because then I could kill you again." Isn't that sensationally nasty? I wish the dead could come back to life, you bastard, because then I could kill you again. He's so fucking evil. But then see you, Sergeant, you know, it's done a good job there. Change organ again. Done a good job there. Aye, Constable, yeah. Go home, have a pot of tea with your missus. I'll just be back in my room at the inn, or whatever. And he goes in there and he just sits down, but in the shadows, you've got George is there, who comes for him and gets him. So George does come back from the grave, but he doesn't get to kill him again. However, you've got to remember that McCormick's going to come back from the dead as well. And well, then they shake dead hands together and oh yeah, I know you're a hippie, you've got beard and long hair and all that, but really, now we just want to chow down on all the other degenerates around here. Yeah. In a way, because like Living Dead at Manchester Morgue is a bit of an offshoot. Well, it's inspired by Night of the Living Dead, which is inspired by I Am Legend. Nothing's original, folks. That I wouldn't have minded a follow up to Manchester Morgue, because where would that have gone? Great. More British locations and more zombies. Local police, maybe bringing in the army, like Doctor Who style, from Unit would be there, shooting at zombies with SLR, super long SLR rifles. Oh my god, fantastic weapons them. One of the best weapons I ever fired, I'll be honest. So, the whole point of this video, the prog rock of the dead. Well, you've heard a lot of this score now. Let's go back on to... Well, this is a track called Edna. But it is that main thing. And it goes on. And you've got drums. And you've got the organ going as well. And then you get some weird effects coming in. At some point you will. But listen to all that. It's almost like sort of tribal elements. So we've got that motif, that theme. Doom doodle doo. You've got lots of percussion. You've got a church organ. You've got vocals on the score. You've got a wind machine, a wind effect. I'm just trying to see where this goes now. So that's tribal. Tribal. Right. Remember the gun shop in the mall in Dawn of the Dead? Tribal. Why would, when watching the film Dawn of the Dead, would Goblin and Claudio Simonetti have thought when they get the gun shop, oh, is it? Oh, are we on? It's the track's called Safari, so are we going on Safari? But when you're watching the film, okay, we're still basing our score on Manchester Morgue. I had all them drums and the bongos and all that, and the vocals. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, of the jury, I present to you. I know it doesn't sound exactly the same, but it's the idea behind it. The use of the vocals and the tribal elements, the ethnic qualities to it. Sorgini had done that already in Living at Manchester Morgue. There you go. Manchester Morgue. It's a very simple motif. Doom doodle doom doom. But it's used again and again in repetition against the backdrop of percussion, timpani, and a funky, almost tribal, progressive vibe. And then you get, oh, gotta get to it. Dawn of the Dead. Vocals, just weird vocalizations. You've got all the ethnic stuff. You've got prog rock going in there, and you've got doom doodle doom doom. I think it's case closed. Verdict. Have you... Foreman? Is it... Did they call him foreman or spokesman of the jury? What do you call him? Whoever. Big mouth of the jury. Have you reached a verdict? Yes, Your Honour. And your verdict is... Guilty, Your Honour. Guilty! I still love the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack. I think it's fantastic, and I love the library tracks. Oh, which reminds me, this is Jack Tromby's Mask of Death, which was used extensively throughout Prisoner Cell Block H. The great 80s, you know, women's prison drama, which ran for fucking years and years and years. And you had Queen Bee, who was in charge, and Vinegar Tits, the evil prison wardess. But listen to this. All this track is used in Dawn of the Dead. All of it. In various different places. But Jack Tromby gave this up as a library track to be used by all sorts of TV and film if necessary. So Romero. There's loads of elements of this that in Dawn of the Dead, the entire thing is used in different places. This is it, where Peter and Roger, SWAT team supremos, start clubbing the zombies' heads, and make the run through the mall. And they're trying to get the keys and open the door. Not working because the door slides backwards and the zombies are coming through. And Scott H. Reiniger as Roger, the little tiny SWAT guy. Looks like my brother Steve. It's funny how it's dead catchy. And even that sounds like the big ring of keys, like jailer's keys, that Peter's trying to wear. Fucking hell. Keys to the kingdom, he says. But they almost fucking get topped here. I mean, it's just... And you have to drag that zombie through, trying to shut the doors, and then one's grabbed. He's grabbed the M16, not the M16, it's the Jaeger 15, I think it is, cut down to 2.2, which is what they're using in Dawn of the Dead. They're not using M16s at all. They cut down Jaegers. I know because I fucking had one. You can see the real magazine, the 2.2 bullets inserted inside the 5.56 fake magazine. Do you hear that there? And like that zombie takes the M16 off Roger. Peter's got like, forget about it, just get rid of the other one. And this zombie has got his gun, he's playing with his rifle, looking down the barrel a bit and all that. And they get the one, the suit, bring that one in, get the door shut, and Roger just goes, boots it in the face, and pulls out his Smith & Wesson, BWAM! Shoots it in the head. Scott Reiniger's brother is actually in this scene as well. That's the boot in the face and the bullet in the head. And there's Fran. Galen Ross has been left alone in the upper echelons of the mall where they first broke in. And the Hare Krishna zombie is about to make his presence felt. This is the thing about Dawn of the Dead. The zombies aren't frightening at all. Not at all. But that isn't the point. It's Dawn of the Dead's a fabulous horror movie in its own right. For its satirical look at consumerism and society. Great characters. Fucking hell. If you look at the video I did for that mask of Flyboy there, I wear it and I wear all his gear. And I do the walk with the revolver hanging by the trigger guard. I'll put the link to that as well. The gong. The Dawn of the Dead it's scary in its scale, that an entire nation has collapsed, and it's very believably done as well, how society's collapsing there. The TV shows, the radio shows, everything's just breaking down. There's no more semblance of law and order anymore, and the zombies, they're everywhere. And by implication, it's terrifying at sheer scale. But the zombies themselves, not one of them is frightening, not one. Just if they get older, they're horrible, but you're not frightened of anything. They're just doing what they do. It's very methodical and just like they're operating true to form. And yet, if you look at Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, the zombies are frightening. They're genuinely frightening. The way they move, and they can move fast as well. There's some scenes of them coming down at you like that. And Guthrie he's thinking, and he's menacing. And you don't want to mess with him at all. And I'd say the only other film where the zombies in the typical zombie genre of the 70s and the 80s who are frightening are, of course, Lucio Fulci's zombies, particularly from Flesh Eaters, where if you're going to poor Olga Carlotos, who gets the hand comes through the door and drags her by a scalp towards the most wicked, huge, long, bloody splinter. Thing is, when you think about that, what's that zombie doing? I'm just going to drag you slowly towards this thing here. Why is he thinking like that? He's just going to just drag her, and just bring her through, and try to eat through the door. That's what you'd be doing. But no, I'm going to drag you slowly, like I've planned this, towards this huge, inexorable splinter, which is going to go right through your eye socket, through the orb, and break the the occipital yolk of your eye. Oh dear. And it does pop, doesn't it, as well? No. And it's her scream as well, when half her face gets ripped apart. And she's like, the scream's gone from like, ah, to, oh God. And then we see her remains being chowed down upon. I've flitted from, well, that's 3 zombie, well, 4, Night Living Dead, and it's chronological order as well. Night Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, which came out several years afterwards, Dawn of the Dead, and then Zombie Flesh Eaters. See, I had to do that then, because can you do that? Can you go like dun, 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 and then does your next finger come up? Mine doesn't. By the way, that hand's broken there, so been broken twice there. Won't go into all that, but the same fucking place as well. Can you believe that? 2 separate incidents. Having said that, I probably can't do it with this hand either. Dun, 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 dunk. Better. Oh, much better. Dunk, dunk, dunk. Not happening, is it? Not happening, that. Makes a good fist though. I can still fucking do some damage, but I just can't do any of that. Oh, I can do it that way round. No, it doesn't work the other way around. How weird. How weird's that? So you've got a bit of like Kilt-Man's weird anatomy thrown into the pot as well. Stew on that. See, guitars and the drums, it's rock, but progressive because it's trying a different style. It's almost jazz, because jazz throws anything into the mix and it can go off on tangents. It doesn't follow a particular musical flow. I know the jazz aficionados there are going like, of course it does. To me, it sounds great, but it sounds chaotic. Like every single person is doing their own fucking thing and at the same time. And prog rock is experimental. It's pushing motifs and themes and musical vocabulary in different directions with different backings, and it can break and drop, and you've got, you know, contrapuntal elements, and it just goes all over the show. And of course, this is the trucks as well, you know, and they're trying to block all the doorways, entrances to the mall, and of course fucking Roger screws up good style. And you got Fran on the roof, you got Flyboy buzzing around as well, like David Emge, he's outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I've said like Scott H. Raniger as Roger looks like my brother, whose name is Steve. Steve Flyboy looks like my mate Steve Finnegan. Well, not in that particular guise, but I've always, the hair, the nose, everything. I always see similarities from people. I love that as well. I bet you're the same. You go, me and my son always do this. Damn, especially like with footballers and stuff, like, oh, looks like just like so and so. Like, you do that. It's great when you can say that, oh, so-and-so looks like so-and-so from a TV show or from a movie, because then you've got a common sort of, yeah, you're right. But if you go, oh, looks like my mate, you know, who I used to work with, well, or looks like a guy that I drink in a pub with, it's, no one else knows who that is, so you've got no frame of reference, really. And they go, oh, okay, really. But I bet you're the same. I can't help but do that. I haven't seen a single person in movies that looks like me. Well, I have just opened the gates of hell there, haven't I? Oh, go on, do your worst. Do your worst. and Roddy Piper, just because it's a kilt. No. Don't look nothing like him. You know. Do not. Cheers, y'all. And I do not like Guthrie the Loon either. I tell you who, in Dawn of the Dead, who does frighten me. It's the gang of bikers when they come in. When I was a kid watching this, there's a couple of really big ones. You know when they go on the rampage, they're picking up mannequins and that, like, but they're gonna watch that thing anyway, and they start smashing TVs in with sledgehammers and all that. Like, it's not Savini as Blades Tom Savini doesn't frighten me at all. And Greg Nicotero's in there as well, and a few others, you know, that we recognise throughout all of the cycle of movies and all that. But there's one wearing a Nazi helmet, a Nazi fucking Second World War German helmet, and he's got like some kind of combat jacket on, and he's just big, and he's just pushing things over, and he's just lumbering round. And as a kid, I was sort of like, fuck me, you know. And when I watch it now, I get that frisson of nostalgia, like, he frightened me. But when you look at him, it's like, take him down any second of the day, you know. I know how to take that guy down. Fucking chop to the knee, chop to that knee, bollocks, get taken out from under him, flip him over, and then down on his fucking windpipe. It wouldn't be hard to do. But I still remember that I thought, oh god, no, he's a bit of a frightening side. And yet none of the zombies are frightening, not one. And you've got the lead zombies in there, you've got the one with the gun, you know. You've got Fat Boy, you've got the nurse, which is everywhere, isn't she? And you've got loads of the hero zombies that you see all the time. But not one, you don't feel afraid of any single one of them. And that's the thing about Dawn of the Dead. It's a great horror film and with tons of horror, but it's not scary in its individual storytelling or its set pieces. It's scary in its overview. That's what I was saying before. Whereas Living Dead at Manchester Morgue and Flesh Eaters and Night of the Living Dead are genuinely frightening and scary movies because it's more immediate, it's more visceral in many ways. And, you know, it's just, you've got, the zombies themselves are a formidable force. Even one on its own is genuinely terrifying, whereas they're not in Dawn of the Dead. Day of the Dead. Are they frightening in Day of the Dead? I love Day of the Dead. It's, as years go by, I'm really appreciating Day. I never didn't appreciate it. I've always loved Day of the Dead since it first came out, and I got it before it came out in this country, thanks to my good mate author Ramsey Campbell. I got a full uncut copy of You Sir, way before it was finally granted a UK theatrical showing, which was cut as well. Let's play a bit of that. What the hell, we're still here, aren't we? Day of the Dead is one of the best scores of any zombie movie ever. Why can't I find it? There it is. John Harrison's fabulous score for this. No, I think Dr. Tongue, as they called him during the opening sequence when they get down to the Florida Everglades and all that, like, and they on the megaphone calling for anyone who might still be alive. Would you want to go and join that bunch? If you knew what they got up to, the fucking sort under Captain Rhodes, Joseph Pilato, oh God rest his soul, and Gary Clark, God rest his soul as well. Dear God, everyone's George Romero. Oh, terrifying, isn't it? But well, you've got one of these shocks in a Romero zombie movie where Laurie Cardile goes to the pumpkin calendar on the wall, and all the hands come crashing through, which is any second now. Sarah. But Romero never really relies on jump shocks and scares. Yeah, I mean, you've got some paralysing moments. Then Stephen gets ripped apart in the elevator in Dawn of the Dead, and like he drops down, but you don't see him die, and he's on the walkie-talkie. And you've got Peter in the air duct. Flyboy! What was it with air ducts during the late 70s? Alien was full of them as well, wasn't it? And then the zombies, they know someone's in there. They inadvertently press the button to open the doors, and Stephen's just stood there like that, And they go, oh, the zombies collectively go like, ah. Turn around and walk off, and he's joined them. But John Harrison's score here, and throughout this, it's the best score to a Romero zombie movie. One of the best scores to any zombie movie. One of the best scores ever. In fact, I love this score. It's so good. And this is the helicopter going over. And you've got McDermott, who's the alcoholic. And lay off the fucking booze, why don't you? Yeah. Well, I'll have to lay off the fucking booze, because then there won't fucking be any fucking left for the fucking... I forgot the quote. Sorry. You got Dr. Tongue, who's when they're going to start calling out, and all the zombies begin to come out of the woodwork, basically, and they can hear like, listen, you can even hear it above the engines. Oh, it's a dead place. Forget it, Billy boy. And Dr. Tongue, who's got no lower jaw, and his tongue was just going like, and the camera slowly pans up to him. It's coming up. This is one hell of a catchy, fucking rhythmic fucking score. And then you get this. And you see newspapers blowing around, the dead walk. The synth is gorgeous, isn't it? Synclavian again, I'm sure this is mid-80s, so Synclavia was all the rage. You ask Alan Silvestri. You got Miguel, who's he's got PTSD and all sorts of fucking things wrong with him. And he's in love with Sarah. She hasn't got much pickings, has she? Let's be honest. There's no hunky dude, amongst the ragtag scientists and the soldiers in their underground silo. It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's so... the way it's twisted from all that upbeat, catchy rhythm to like this dirge-filled, melancholy, and yet it's still got the heartbeat of the living against the angular harshness of the dead. And then they'll bug out, and Harrison switches it back to the upbeat sort of like, let's get on the helicopter and get out of here. Isn't that great? And there's a Caribbean flavour to it as well, which is partly based on the characters who are in the movie and the setting, But you've got this Caribbean, sort of twang to it. But we're going to get to, absolutely my favourite pieces of this. Rhodes leaves his men behind, and the zombie overrun. This is where, like, Miguel, who's gone, he's been bitten and they've chopped off his arm off, but he's still like, fuck this. It's all gone to rat shit. And they've got these big elevators, they're in a silo, and he sends himself up there, opens the gates, lets all the zombies come in and devour him on the elevator. But he manages to press the button to send the elevator down. And incredibly, more zombies that are actually on the elevator get into the silo and then kill off all the other, pretty much everybody apart from the good guys down there. But Rhodes, Joe Pilato, who's took command, who's a fucking bad. He's the McCormick from The Living Dead and Manchester Morgue. He's that kind of absolutely dictatorial, tyrannical twat that probably runs your country and mine. Oh, that's Bub. Oh, Bub. I should have brought that. I've got the mask from Bub as well. I should have brought his mask down as well. And he sees Dr. Frankenstein. By the way, or Logan, but they call him Dr. Frankenstein. Ramsey Campbell, who gave me this movie before it came out in this country at all. I was probably one of 3 people to have a copy of it. The guy that gave it to him, and me. Well, Logan, Dr. Frankenstein, looks like Ramsey Campbell. Well, as he does in this movie. True. And Bub sees Logan's dead, and Bub's the friendly zombie. But he can use a gun. You know what's coming, but this is fucking awesome, this. Rhodes, when they all see the zombies coming down, they're like, him and his 3 other cohorts, they're like, holy shit, holy fucking shit. Like, and one zombie falls off the elevator, and Rhodes gets into a golf cart, because it's a nuclear bunker, there's all sorts of things there, and he's riding round. But the corral where they had zombies already, they can use for experiments down there. They've opened the corral up as well, so zombies are coming through. They're from both sides. That's Taso Stavrakis getting his head ripped off, and they walk off with it, with their fingers in his eyeballs, as his body's still giving it loads, and then all the stringy bits that come away. So all Rhodes' cohorts are getting one by one picked off. This was a cut scene here. You know, like this guy gets his fingers bitten off and his face ripped open. He's good. He's the one that laughs all the time. And the zombies all pounce on him. He blows one's head apart, like, and then they just tear him to shreds. And like they're squeezing his brains as well, like, oh Christ. But, you know, they're twats and they deserve it. You get Steel, Gary Clark, who turns his cat backwards. Come on, Bub! Come on, you puss-brain bag of shit! Because Bub's marching down. Bub, our hero zombie, and he's got a gun. He's going like, ah. Listen to this. It's pure. This is prog rock as well. It's pure electronica. It's taking the musical style and bringing it further out and trying new stuff with the huge timpani and the huge percussion element. Steel retreats through a room. He thinks he's going to get Bub. The zombies come up behind him. Ah! Hear the guitar? Oh God, I so want to watch Day of the Dead now. Come on, bud. Come on, you puss-brain bag of shit. then he gets, wah! And he's like, ah! Once you've been bitten, that's it, innit, really? And he makes, door opens, takes down a couple of them, and then realises, I'm fucked here. Boosh! Blows his own brains out. Well, it looks like McDermott was right. Because there won't fucking be any of it fucking left, will it, for fuck's sake? I've still got the line wrong. I still can't remember what his line is. And he's talking to Steele at the time. Oh, this is our heroes are now been thrust into the corral, but another guy is there who's going to help them, you know. So, and he comes out of nowhere and they start killing zombies left, right, and centre and try and make their getaway. So listen to this. This is the Bat Caves, not Bruce Wayne's Bat Caves. There are some great moments. Like a bat literally flies past and he goes like that. See, this is massively different from the library music of Night of the Living Dead and or meager music of Night of the Living Dead and the library music and Goblin score from Dawn of the Dead. This is now really, it's an entirely singular voice vision of John Harrison for this score, so it works phenomenally better, I think. It's that waterphone, vibraphone, glass bottles full of water, bang, 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 bang. And then we're going to get this now. Heroes escape. They're going to find the elevator to get up. Right? Not the elevator. Oh yeah. Elevator's temporarily out of order, says McDermott, the pisshead. You know, I double checked that. He's pissed as a fart, remember. And it's got one of them big ladders. Right, gotta climb all the way to the sunlight up there. And zombies are coming up after them and they're blowing brains out. Come on now, you gotta fly us to the promised land. There's a lovely, lovely, heroic, euphoric moments in this piece of music here, where like our boy's getting dragged down by a zombie and he can't, oh, it's jammed or there's no bullets, and then McDermott manages to like shoot down and takes the zombie out. Now, tension, this thing is coming for him, and then throws his guns down and they make the getaway up to the top where there's a helicopter and only he can fly the helicopter. And then you get our tremendous finale of Bub stalking Rhodes. Rhodes, who's been the twat to a zombie who's found a semblance of his former life, his former humanity, and formed an attachment with Logan, Dr. Frankenstein, and then discovered that Frankenstein's been killed by Captain Rhodes, and now he begins to stalk Rhodes, and like he's got a knife really badly strapped to his boot, really badly, and he's got guns everywhere, but he's so nervous he can't get a magazine into his fucking M16. Like, and they're M16s this time around, unlike Dawn of the Dead. And he's like, oh, come on, you bad fuck, come on! And Bub, what's my hair doing now? New romantic, and Bub's going like. And like taking like fucking pot shots at him, but hitting him in the legs and in the back. And Rose is, come on, you bad fuck. And he ends up like crawling down a wall, hobbling down a wall. He's dropped his weapon. He's got nothing now apart from that stupid jiggly knife. And there's just one door. And it's like, come on. And Bub just stands at the end of the corridor like that. Yeah. And like, come on. And he opens the door. And what's behind the door? A load of zombies who go, ooh, hello. And he's like, he turns around and Bub just goes. I know I'm using the wrong eye here, but he's a zombie. I'm sure he doesn't use the right eye anyway. And he shoots him just there. It doesn't kill him. And Rhodes gets taken down, and of course he gets ripped in half. In truth, you can't grab someone's legs and pull a body in half. You might pull the legs off. You're not going to pull them in half at the waist, but it's still a spectacularly grisly ending, isn't it? And all the zombies go, ooh, and they chow down on all the guts and the entrails and intestines that spill out everywhere. And Joseph Pilato is choke on him! Choke on him! He was a wild character, Joseph Pilato. And this is the happy finale on a tropical island, in the Caribbean. And Sarah's pregnant. So you've had Night of the Living Dead. Everyone dies, including the hero. You've had The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, and everyone dies. Literally everyone dies. And then it's going to go on, and everyone else is going to die as well. And then come back, and there you go. Then you get Dawn of the Dead. No, survivors. Peter and Fran get away in a helicopter at the end to an uncertain future. They fly off into a dawn. The sun is coming up, so it's Dawn of the Dead. But you don't know where they're going to go. Initially, for Day of the Dead, they were going to show our heroes' helicopter, quasi-heroes and a lot of bad guys, flying over a crashed helicopter, which was meant to be their crashed helicopter from Dawn of the Dead. I know, it's like Hicks and Newt from, Dead in Alien 3. It would have been that kind of thing. But I don't think they would have played on it. I think it'd be only if you're a massive fan, you'd have gone like, that's the WGON, helicopter. Oh shit, they crashed and died. Oh no. But they didn't put that in the movie. So at the end of Day of the Dead, you actually get a happy ending, bizarrely. You've got Sarah and McDermott, and I can't remember the helicopter on his name. I forgot his name. I've completely forgot his name. Throughout all of this review and discussion, I've skirted around this guy's name because I knew I couldn't fucking remember it. And anyway, he's the Caribbean dude. And maybe God's got pissed off with us, tried to sort his shit out. He's the pure Rasta, but with short hair. And he's great as well, he's fabulous. And so they're on a desert island, but she's pregnant with Miguel's child, we assume. And, zombie flesh eaters. No happy ending for that one. Oh yeah, they survive the island of Matul, and they get back to, they're on their way back to New York, but they hear on the radio broadcast that, even the radio presenter isn't safe from zombies, because I've just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in. Because the zombies have took over everywhere. And in a neat kind of way, Full Cheese Movie actually kind of goes, I know I'm ripping off Dawn of the Dead, which is called Zombie in Italy. So Zombie Flesh Eaters was called Zombie 2 to cash in on it. But it only came out a year afterwards. 78 for Dawn of the Dead, 79 for Zombie Flesh Eaters. and the zombies are better, and the gore is way better, without a doubt. But it's like, well, we're setting up how Dawn of the Dead happened. We're showing how the zombies got to New York in the first place. Fulci and Dardano Saggetti, who wrote the script, kind of managed to just be a bit sort of sneaky and throw a bit extra in there. They're all genius. Well, folks, we've discussed a lot of zombie music. It's the prog rock of the dead. And wow, it's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it? It's been a journey and a half. We should do a watch party for some, well, we should do it for all these movies. I really do owe it to you guys to do a watch party for all of these films. Hang on, I've already done one of them. I've done Zombie Flesh Eaters. I've done that. Go check that out. Well, we're going to end up after this bit, which is so cool. I'm going to play the whole reason why I did this video in the first place. That's weird, isn't it? Oh, it's weird. Electronic horn call. Anyway, screw that. The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. Doom doodle doom doom. And then no. But it isn't just that 4-note little motif there. It isn't just that. It's that with the accompanied percussion and timpani and the alarming sort of avant-garde prog rock elements all coalesced together. You know, Giuliano Sorgini, what's his name again? Giuliano Sorgini came up with it first, and I've got a feeling that Claudio Simonetti and Goblin heard that, oh, zombie film, let's go and check out all the zombie movies. Oh, well, look at this one. We've seen George's Night of the Living Dead, but there's no music in that really that we can never use or emulate to try and any kind of continuity. But oh, look at this one though. Wow, that's clever. It's avant-garde, it's progressive, and that's what we do, even though we only just formed after the movie came. So let's use that kind of style, and the motif has bled in there, and the whole combination of the ethnic drums and percussion and the use of guitars as well, like it's, I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong. The more I've heard it, the more I'm convinced. I was thinking like I'm going to hear it again on camera and go like, oh shit, yeah, I'm way off the market, but I'm not. I'm not. Folks, have been or shall be Kilt-Man, please. In the meantime, and it's ever like, well, let's just talk about zombie movies and throw everything into the mix in between time. Please keep it Celtic, keep it Celtic, and I am going to see you all. It was the corpses! The corpses! I wish the dead could come back to life, you bastard, because then I could kill you again. What a twat!